All right, everybody. A few people have been asking us about doing this. I'm here with Brandon. My name is Tom Gowdy, and I'm here with Brandon Anderson. And we've been asked to do this on a short note because a lot of the recordings that we've done in the past have always been, um, well, they've had questions on them, so they make them a lot longer. So what we'd like to do is make a shorter video, just explaining the things so that we don't have to have a longer video with all the questions and everything. Sometimes the questions are helpful, but not always. So let's start off with the Constitution. Everyone knows and loves the Constitution. They never ever debate their own constitutions, being that they're state constitutions, which are separate nations, which we can get into later on. But they always dispute this one in particular. Not understanding why, because it really has nothing to do with any nation. It has to do with what's called the federal government, quote unquote. Or in our case, it's a de facto government or a company. So when you look at the Constitution, there's so many different things and elements that are in there that don't represent the people. Even though it starts off with "we the people," and we'll get into that right now. As you can see, this is a copy of it, the Constitution of the United States. So as we go down further, we see "we the people." Now, when we see "we the people," we notice that people is capitalized. Now, when we were in school, we learned that a proper name started with a capital. So if it's a proper name, who's it referring to? We'll get to that. But it was "we the people of the United States." And remember, it says Constitution of the United States, right? But it also mentions something else. It mentions United States of America. So which one is it? That's two different entities. United States of America. They are not the same thing. You may think they're the same thing because that's what you've been taught. Or if you use logic, you'd understand that it's not the same name. They're both different. So if you look at this, it says "we the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union." Why would they need a more perfect union when in fact they had a perpetual union? A perpetual union is much more different than a more perfect union. What were they trying to make more perfect? These are the questions that should go through your mind when you think about these things. So as we look at this, we see "for ourselves and our posterity." Who's ourselves and our posterity? Again, this Constitution wasn't meant for you and I. It was meant for the people who wrote it. And we'll refer to that later on. But notice the two entities, United States, and we'll prove to you that this is the bank, and United States of America is the Virginia Company, renamed. So you look at this and you see other things in here that are really, they really stick out, like Congress of the United States. We don't call it that today. We call it U.S. Congress, U.S. House of Representatives, and U.S. Senate. So because we're not using the proper names from the Constitution, they do not apply to the Constitution. You must use the proper name. If you don't use the proper name, you're not referring to the right document, which we would contend is probably there's another one. But obviously, in this Constitution, that's not true. Many people have contended that there was another Constitution. But the only reason why they say that is because of this line right here. "Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And the "for" is what they get hung up on right here. For the United States of America. Well, it would be proper if you use "of," meaning belonging to America, because "of" is created by. Is that true? Wait a minute. Is that reverse? One is created by, the other is belonging to. Yeah, United States of America, meaning belonging to. Sorry, I almost got that mixed up. For means created by. So Constitution for the United States of America, for the United States of America would be created by the United States of America. They were calling themselves the United States of America. And they had no right to ordain anything. If you even consider that the people who signed this were in office under the Articles of Confederation before this document, they had abandoned the Articles of Confederation to create this document, meaning they abandoned their own office. That would be what's referred to as treason. Think about that one for a minute. All right, so we go further down into this document, and as you can see, like I said, Congress of the United States, not U.S. Congress, not U.S. Senate, and not U.S. House of Representatives. Nowhere in here does it mention anything about a U.S. citizen either. I'll show you. Right here. U.S. citizen is right here in this little box. It scanned the whole document, and there were no matches found. Isn't that something? Why isn't there U.S. citizen in here? Interesting. But it does mention citizen of the United States. So if you're not a citizen of the United States, how can you enforce this document? It does mention inhabitants. We'll get to what inhabitants are. But it also mentions state with a capital T, S on it. Capital S, that's a proper name. Remember I referred to that up above with the people. It has a capital letter S. A lowercase s would be a state of mind, state of being. There's a lot of different definitions for a lowercase s, state. So we go on further, and we see it again. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States. And who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state for which he shall be chosen. Very specific on that wording. All right, so we go down further, and we get to a very important part that people always miss. Funny how they miss this one, but they do. And it's because they don't pay attention. Right here. It says to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. Most people have no idea what the law of nations is. Has anyone ever read it? I have. Very interesting read. Although it's a little dry, it's very worthwhile read. We'll get to that too. And then if I go down further here, we'll see this is very explicit. It says, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. That's very explicit. And yet, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States. That's not the President of the United States of America. That's not President of the United States of America. It's the President of the United States. In other words, CEO of the bank. Now, how do I know it's the bank? I'll get to that. Let's go down further here and we'll see another thing that really stands out. The judicial branch of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. What do we call that today? U.S. Supreme Court. Let's take a look at that for a second here, right? U.S. Supreme Court. We are a privately held company in Washington, D.C., right down here. Probably doing business for 228 years. Now, this was taken a while ago, and it was from Manta.com. They've changed it now, probably because we've shown this many times, but it really does say what it means. We are a privately held company. Privately held. Privately held by whom? Obviously, it's not a court of the people, or it wouldn't say privately held. Therefore, it's not your court. And you wonder why cases get rejected all the time on certain matters. Right? So we see many inconsistencies here. We see citizens of different states. Well, which one of you is a state citizen? None. None of you are state citizens. Of foreign states, citizens or subjects. Interesting, subjects. All right, so you start to see these things, and then you see citizen of the several states. You see, but no, I still don't see any U.S. citizen. But correct me if I'm wrong. Please look it up and show it to me. And don't tell me they mean the same thing, because they don't. They also have two different citizens of the United States, and one of them is lowercase and the other one's uppercase, and you can verify that if you look it up. Do your own research, and then you'll be able to do that. But either way, you go through this document, and none of the things that we think are true are actually true. Therefore, I contend that this Constitution does not belong to you. And I will verify that further as we go along. So again, we see the bank, United States, right? How do I know that? Well, all we have to do is a quick query on the internet, and we look up Bank New York Mellon. Bank New York Mellon. Imagine that. So we go to contact on Bank New York Mellon, and we go down here further, and we see corporate headquarters, 240 Greenwich Street, New York, New York, 10286, United States. Who puts United States in their address? Not even the White House puts United States in the address. Isn't that something? So there you go. United States is the bank. It's always been, always will be. That means that the CEO of the company, meaning the president, is the actual president of the bank. And there is where the problem lies. They changed all the names in the Constitution. They redid it. But that's not the biggest problem. There's even more to that than that. And we'll get to that. So as we go along, we start to see these inconsistencies. And we start to see these even more when you actually read it and know what you're looking at. And you notice that in here, it says nothing about the states. So your perfect union has nothing to do with the states either. It's not there. Now let's go to the Articles of Confederation and how that was written. Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union between the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, and Providence Plantations, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. They all agreed that the actual name of the country was going to be, and that's, they referred to it that as a style of the way it was written, the United States of America with a capital T. You can't dispute that. It's in the document. It's written the way it is on purpose. But yet, 2 years later, now look at the date up here. We have March 1st, 1781, right? And we move into the Paris Treaty. Let's take a look at that. In the Paris Treaty, now this is 1783. The Definitive Treaty of Peace, 1783, right? It having pleased the divine providence to dispose of the hearts of the most serene and most potent Prince George III, by the grace of God King of Great Britain, etc., 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 Arch Treasurer and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America. Where did they get that name if they had a different name just 2 years before? We'll get to that too. Now, here's your agreement. The Treaty of Peace proposed to be concluded between the Crown of Great Britain. Now, and anybody who knows this knows the Crown is a financial sect in Great Britain. The Crown is a one block area where the bank resides, the Lloyds of London, et cetera, Rothschild, we could go on, but I think you get the picture. The Crown of Great Britain and the said United States. Remember when I told you? United States is the bank, right there. It was an agreement between the two banks right here. And the people that actually signed this was David Hartley. He was an Esquire. Now, we all know what Esquires are, don't we? If not, I'll define that soon. John Adams, Esquire. Benjamin Franklin, Esquire. And John Jay, Esquire. Why did they sign as Esquire? Isn't that a title of nobility? An Esquire is a lawyer or judge sometimes. But Esquire means something. It's just below a sir, which means they signed under royalty, under the name United States and the United States of America. So what made them change this? What made them change the name? What made them go into treason and do this? And they secured it for themselves, their heirs, and successors, which made it an oligarchy. And it's been ever since. So we see a little bit of inconsistency here. You can read these documents for yourself, and you can actually see what we're talking about here. But nobody does. Nobody reads anything. They just assume and presume. So you can do whatever you want, but you should verify it for yourself. At least see what we're talking about here and get a grasp on what we're trying to say. And if you can do that, then you can start to realize what's going on around you. So let's go to inhabitants. Remember, I mentioned that before, right? Under the law of nations, which is what I pointed out to you in section 8, right? Under the law of nations, this is what this is. It's statute 213, inhabitants. You can read the law of nations. I like told you, you really should. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country. Founded a society by their residents, they are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it. And they are obligated to defend it because it grants them protection, though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens. We're talking about Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of them. They enjoy only the advantages which the law or custom gives them, and we know that for a fact. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. Now, when we're talking about perpetual residence, we're talking about your tax return. If you get a state tax return, you actually end up checking off residence and all this. Resident, U.S. citizen. And then it says these are the kind of citizens of an inferior order, and are united to the society without participating in all its advantages. Their children follow the condition of their fathers, as the state has given these the right of perpetual residence. Their right passes to their posterity. So what they did was they didn't make you citizens anymore for real, because obviously it's not constitutional there. And what they did is they put you in inhabitant status. And that's where you are. Or a perpetual resident. Either way, that constitution doesn't belong to you. You're not the right kind of citizen. So you can't really do anything with it. They did that on purpose. So then you go further, And you start to see where United States came from, United States of America. There were two Declarations of Independence. And when you read the other one that we know, all know and love, it tells you that it was these 13 United States. So that's what it began with. It was talking about these 13 United States, but this one's a little different. And as you notice, when you look at this, it was done on crown paper. Right here. Her Majesty's State Paper Office. Now, if you don't think this is a real document, let me show you. Let's go up a little further. It's a crown copyright. Remember, I mentioned the crown. And this is the National Archives. It's actually in the Library of Congress. Imagine that. So it says in Congress, July 4th, 1776, a declaration by the representatives of the United States of America. You could contend that the is different because you're thinking maybe it's all uppercase the way it's supposed to be, but it's not. And it says in General Congress assembled, right? So let's go down below. And also pay attention to this assembled part of it, because we're going to refer back to that too. Signed by order and in behalf of the Congress. What Congress? I thought they just declared their independence. And it's funny, John Hancock signed it. And here's his witness. But there's no states here. Nobody else is on this document. Now, you can contend that the name was the United States of America, but in fact, it's not on this document. It's actually the United States of America, which means United States of America is the real name. The is not part of the name. Look on the president's plane and you'll know what I'm talking about. So just when they did that Treaty of Paris there, they actually were referring to this document. And that's the reason why the name changed. They did it right under their noses. They screwed everyone and brought it all forward. So that means that the United States is still under the crown. Right? I'd have to say that Cornwallis said it best. General Cornwallis said a holy war will now begin on America. When it is ended, America will be supposedly the citadel of freedom, but her millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects to the crown. He was correct. He knew what he was talking about. This is the man that Washington surrendered, had his sword surrendered from. Cornwallis handed over his sword to George Washington. No doubt a staged show. So, yeah, a lot of people died for nothing. It's terrible if you think about it. So, does the United States of America still exist? It absolutely does. It's been in existence ever since its conception. In fact, its conception was started in York, Pennsylvania, capital of the nation, from September 30th, 1777 to June 27th, 1778. The Articles of Confederation were adopted here November 15th of 1777 with the name the United States of America. That's how I distinguish between the two. There's a the and a the. In this case, it's a the with a capital T. So notice that it was in York, Pennsylvania. And where did they sign the Constitution? New York. Really strange. Kind of paralleling, right? So we go into the Constitution where Georgie signed it. And he was not encompassed in a state, as you can see right here. And I can bring that up so that you can see it a little bit more. Well, I don't have it up here, but I can get it right here. This is the Constitution signed, right? Everyone was encompassed in a state except for Georgie. Georgie signed it alone. He was not encompassed in a state, but yet, if you read it closely, and I'm going to bring this up again, it says G. Washington, President, he abbreviated it, and deputy from Virginia, which makes no sense at all. If he was the deputy from Virginia, then why didn't he sign it under Virginia? And what is a deputy from Virginia? Deputy what? Unless we add one more word to it. President and deputy from Virginia Company. And that completes that sentence. You think maybe he ran out of space, or maybe he was trying to hide something? Oh yeah, that's right. He couldn't tell a lie. We all know that, right? The cherry tree story. So yeah, he couldn't tell a lie, but Georgie did write it this way. And he signed it G. Washington. I mean, if I look at the signatures on this, they look a little different than that, don't they? I mean, most of them signed their real name. I guess Georgie couldn't spell George. Whatever. In any case, that was his signature. So I guess you have to accept it for what it is, right? In any case, we go on and we find out many different things that happen there. We find out that the General Post Office is abandoned. Dr. Franklin, on the 7th day of November, 1776, was succeeded as Postmaster General by his relative Richard Burke, who remained in office to the 28th day of January, 1782, when he was succeeded by Ebenezer Hazard, who was the last head of the General Post Office under the Confederacy. This would be the Articles of Confederation, by the way. And then it talks about where it was located. And then it says the General Post Office in the year 1790 was located in New York. New York. Why would they move it there? And Samuel Osgood of Massachusetts was the first Postmaster General under the federal government, which today is called USPS. It's a postal service, not a post office anymore. The very original form of government comes from the post office. If the internet went down, your phone systems went down, how would you communicate with somebody on the other side of the United States? You'd use the mail system. And that's also how the government communicated with the people, is through the post office. So it's the very foundation of government. Just so you know that. They used it as a bank at one point. They used it for many different things. And it's not being used that way like it used to. So the post office is a very big thing. If you don't have one, you don't have a nation. So let's look further into this. And I told you that, well, it was a company, right? Well, let's find out about that. Let's take a look at the Dun Bradstreet Report right here. This is under Barack Obama. It has a Dunn's number. And it says Executive Office of the United States Government, subsidiary of Government of the United States, Washington, D.C. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue North, W, Washington, D.C. I don't see the United States in there anywhere. Kind of funny, isn't it? But yet the bank has it. Interesting, right? Enacted under Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution formed in 1787. I'll zoom in on that so you can see it better. Right here. Enacted under Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution formed in 1787. Now, nobody was inaugurated at that time, right? But they were just rewriting it. Business started 1787. Oops, I got that blotted out. Sorry. Business started 1787. Business started 1787. Not country, not nation, but business started. You start to see this stuff and you go, wait a minute, something doesn't seem right, does it? So there you go. Business. That means it's a company. Now let's go further into this and we start to see things like this. Now, most people know that Trump doesn't make mistakes when he does any of his tweets, right? Kofifi, or a number of different things that he misspelled on purpose, but this he didn't misspell on purpose, and I'll tell you why. I am pleased to inform you that the United States of America has reached a signed agreement with Mexico. The United States of America, not the United States of America or United States of America. It's very explicit. It says the United States of America. He knows his entities. See, they couldn't treaty with another country without having a country to treaty with. A company cannot treaty with another country. That would be unlawful. But yet they did that with the Native Americans, just so you know. The Native Americans got screwed because of that. They were treatying with the United States, and that was with the bank. They really got screwed. In any case, you look and you see U.S., that's the military, and down below he mentions United States. So you see, he can separate all these different entities, but we as Americans don't seem to be able to. He knows what these entities are. He knows exactly what they are. Most of the Americans don't. If you remember back in the Civil War, they had belt buckles and hats and everything else that said U period, S period. That's the military. They still do it today. On some of the military gear, it still says US on it. U period, S period. What that really means, who knows? It could be United States, but I'm not sure. Why is there a period on each of them? I don't know. But I do know that symbolizes the military. And down here, United States is the bank. So as you can see, it still exists. The name the United States of America still exists today. There's no doubt about it. It's right there. So as we go on, General Flynn was talking about a few things, and one of the things that he mentioned was the name John Locke. John Locke was very important back in the 1600s. He wrote something about the Social Compact Agreement. And the Social Compact Agreement says this: an agreement people make among themselves to create a government to rule them and protect their natural rights. Let me go back a minute here. And protect their natural rights. Really important when you mention that. To avoid a state of nature, people agree to give up some of their freedom in exchange for protection and security. Citizens consent to follow laws in exchange for the protection that these laws will give them. Now, John Locke is mentioned by Flynn when he did the city halls. He mentioned him. Most people wouldn't have caught that because they don't know who John Locke is. But those who did, I congratulate you, because that's pretty cool that you know who he is. Most people don't. So John Locke was famous, a famous English philosopher that lived from 1632 to 1704. That was way before the Constitution or any of that, or even the Declaration of Independence, because the Declaration of Independence didn't come for over 70 years later. So he was at a town hall meeting, Flynn, and he mentioned, your regular players like Thomas Jefferson, Hamilton, and all the rest of them. But he also mentioned John Locke, which he isn't related to any of that at all. So why did he mention John Locke? Well, that might be coming to you. He believed that government should protect the people's natural rights and that kind should not have absolute power. Actually, should say kings, I think, and deprive the people of their natural rights. And with that, I'd like to introduce Brandon.
Thank you, Tom. Hi, everyone. This is Brandon Allen Anderson. The first thing I'd like to go over is the Mayflower Compact. A lot of people know of this, whether or not they knew that it is a social compact amongst men. It is. The section I would like to read out of here is right down below here. Within this, the beginning and ending, they claim to be loyal subjects to King James there and here. But it's really this part in the middle here that I want to go over because it'll help us understand what's coming up next. For the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith and honor of our King and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant, and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation, and furtherance of the ends of aforesaid, and by virtue to enact, constitute, and create such just and equal laws. Ordinances, constitutions, right? So we have this the social compact prior to constitutions creating law, these things for our preservation. So we'll skip over to John Locke's book. This is the second treatise of civil political power rights. So this is section 4. To understand political power right and derive it from its original, we must consider what state all men are naturally in. And that is a state of perfect freedom to order their actions and dispose of their possessions and persons as they think fit, within the bounds of the law of nature, without asking leave or depending upon the will of any other man. So what is he speaking about? What state all men are naturally in? Well, this is when you're birthed into the world, right? This is a state between you and the Creator who created you, God. What is law of nature? When we're talking about the law of nature, we can go over to Scripture. Scripture is a written and published book of law. It's a book, How to Build a Nation. It's published social compacts, all of this, how to live amongst each other, these things. So when we're talking about natural law, I like to use the example of Cain and Abel. It's a easy one for everybody to understand, and most people do know what that is. Cain killed his brother Abel, right? He was God favored Abel over Cain, and he was upset about it, so he took his life. And the law that derived from that is here under 14. See, you have driven me from the face of the ground today, and I am hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and it shall be that anyone who finds me kills me. So because Cain has killed his brother, he is now a fugitive, a wanderer on the earth, meaning he's lacking a social compact, and anyone who finds him will kill him. So some other social compacts within this within Scripture would be Noah's laws, right? The 7 laws of Noah, and then the Ark of the Covenant, the Ten Commandments. That's another social compact amongst men. It was laws that were given to them to live amongst each other and follow, as well as the new covenant coming in later. These people knew exactly what they were talking about, right? These covenants, social compact meaning covenant. So back to the second treatise, we'll go down to section 14. So this is a person in a state of nature, right? We just went over that. Now, what is this social compact? Section 14, it is often asked as a mighty objection, where are or ever were there any men in such a state of nature? To which it may suffice as an answer at present, that since all princes and rulers of independent governments all through the world are in a state of nature. So these princes, these rulers of independent governments are still within the state of nature. That's what he's stating here. It is plain the world never was, nor ever will be, without numbers of men in that state. I have named all governors of independent communities, whether they are or are not in league with others. For it is not every compact that puts an end to the state of nature between men, but only this one of agreeing together mutually to enter into one community and make one body politic. Other promises and compacts men may make one with another and yet still be in a state of nature. So through a social compact, we form this body politic. The body politic has the authority to reform government. So when we actually enter this this compact or the social compact, we're not exiting a state of nature. Everyone is in it. Everyone is equal in it. However, they take a first place, which we'll get into more later here. So what's a reason, why would I want to not be or be in a social compact and still be in the state of nature? Well, for states of war, if somebody's coming in trying to destroy your nation, let's say, that's a reason why I would want to be in social compact with other people. Right now, people are just floating around in a state of nature by themselves. For slavery, that's a reason why I would want to be in social compact with other people. If this superior power comes in trying to enslave a people, that's happening right now through social security numbers and offshore trusts. Property, the recognition of private property. This is an issue today, the recognition of private property, whereas vehicle registrations, these things, you're forced to register your vehicle within county courthouses and put it into a public property registry. That's why they extort you for money if you're driving on the vehicle without these things, licensing, etc. So from here, we're talking about that first place among equals. And we can go over to the Law of Nations to find that. Now, the Law of Nations, the title of the book is The Law of Nations, or the Principles of the Law of Nature in the Conduct of Affairs of Nations and Sovereigns. So this is the principles of the law of nature, what we were just talking about, derived from Scripture. So under section 36, their equality. What he's speaking about in here, Emmer de Vattel, is the state of nature, right? Everyone's equal, this perfect equality within this state of nature. So what's this section 37 precedency? And since precedency or preeminence of rank is a prerogative, no nation, no sovereign can naturally claim it as a right. Why should nations that are not dependent on him give up any point to him against their will? However, as a powerful and extensive state is much more considerable in universal society than a small state, it is reasonable that the latter should yield to the former on occasions where one must necessarily yield to the other, as in an assembly, and should pay at those mere ceremonial differences which do not in fact destroy their equality and only shew a priority of order, a first place among equals. So what is he speaking about here? Well, there's a people within a state of nature here. Then they've entered into universal society, a society of men, a social compact. From there, these people have assembled, in which now they take a first place among equals. Everyone's equal within a state of nature. However, we take a first place through assembly and through society, social compact. And with that, I will yield the floor back to Tom.
Okay, so I had mentioned before that we were talking about the state constitutions. And the state constitutions are pretty explicit about things. And they say things over and over and over again. And I'll show you where they do. The state of Florida, that all men, all free men, when they form a social compact are equal. That's in the Florida Bill of Rights. In Oregon, we declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right. State of Mississippi, that all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. Texas, all free men, when they form a social compact, or have equal rights, and no man, set of men, is entitled to exclusive public emoluments or privileges, but in consideration of public services. Kentucky, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal. You can read all these for yourself. State of Connecticut, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Maryland, that all government originates from the people and is founded in compact only and instituted solely for the good of the whole. And they have at all times the unalienable right, notice that word, we've heard it many times, to alter, reform, or abolish their form of government in such a manner as they deem expedient. Unalienable. I have my unalienable rights. Not without a social compact, you don't. State of Virginia, that all men by nature are free and independent. We heard this before, and have certain inherent rights of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot by any compact derive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. Now, you might say that some of this stuff is in the Constitution. Oh, but nay. Let's find out what they had to say later on in this. While the Constitution may contain aspects of the social compact, if the social compact is entirely contained in a constitution, it will be on what has been referred to as the unwritten constitution. Therefore, the Constitution cannot do the social compact. A body politic is a social compact by which the whole people covenants with each citizen, and each citizen with the whole of the people, that all shall be governed by certain laws for the common good. This does not confer power upon the whole people to control the rights which are purely and exclusively private. Now, Brandon was talking about covenants. There are also secret covenants, which means they do not allow you into that covenant, being a social compact they keep on their own. If it's not a public social compact, then it's not really a social compact. Now, is it? So it's kind of exclusive, isn't it? No social compact means no authority and no consent of the governed, and cannot be given. Therefore, all that is left is slavery perpetuated against those that become subjects of the unauthorized legislation. A social compact is in the speech of the people. If the speech of the people is absent and there is no society formed, no state can exist, no government, and no country. Let that sink in. You have to really understand this, and it takes time. We've been taught that things work a certain way. Now, remember back in the Declaration of Independence when they told you that you have the right to reform government. Well, let's see what the Law of Nations has to say. It may reform the government. Imagine that. If any nation is dissatisfied with the public administration, it may apply the necessary remedies and reform the government, but observe that I say the nation. For I am far from meaning to authorize a few malcontents or incendiaries to give disturbance to their governors by inciting murmurs and seditions. None but the body of a nation, right here, body of a nation, that would be the body politic that Brandon was referring to, have a right to check those at the helm when they abuse their power. When the nation is silent and obeys, the people are considered as approving the conduct of their superiors, or at least finding it supportable. It is not the business of a small number of citizens to put the state in danger under the pretense of reforming it. So what it's telling you here is that only the nation, the body of a nation, have the right to check the people at the helm when they abuse their power. The question you should be asking yourself is, am I a state citizen? Am I a citizen of the United States? Do I have a social compact? Am I really following the law? I would have to say no on all three. So we have a way to do that, but let this soak in first and understand what we're telling you. And then you can make an informed decision of what you want to do moving ahead. We wanted to get this out there to actually demonstrate what this is about, because there's many people that have asked us to do this in a short version, so we're trying to do it as short as we can. But this takes a lot of explanation. It takes time. It takes time to unlearn the things that you've learned. And if you don't unlearn them, there's no way you're going to go forward to be able to fix it. But if you want to fix it, you can. Now, we have other videos too on the T-Row Show. We have two different channels. We have other channels too, but on this right here, you can see the two channels we have. One is called the TRowShow.com, and the other one's under YouTube channel, the Government of the United States of America. If you look it up, you'll see our videos there. If you want to learn more about this, we also are going to be leaving links here down below for you to join us and learn more. If this interests you and you want to change what's going on around you, or you just want to go for the flow and wait for a savior to come, then do as you may. But if you actually want to change it, this is the place to be. Thank you for listening to this. There's more information available. I could go through the proof, but I'm not going to right now. Maybe later on we'll go through that video. But we're going to end it here, and thank you for listening.